Welcome back. You're watching HFO-TV. HFO-TV is co-sponsored by the construction, repair, and restoration firm J.R. Johnson, the real estate law firm Baljanik LLP, the tax deferral accommodator Butler Exchange Group, the mortgage banking firm Gantry Incorporated, and forensic building consultants providing building structural science services.
Welcome back to HFO TV. I'm Greg Frick, partner at HFO Investment Real Estate. And today we've got with us Todd Tully, one of our senior brokers who specializes really in Clark County in North Washington. So thank you, Todd, for taking the time to come speak with us today.
You're welcome.
It's been kind of an interesting year. Maybe Shine, let's talk a little bit about, Washington, Clark County. I know for people that aren't familiar, Vancouver, Washington is just across the Columbia River from Portland. It is part of the Portland PMSA for statistically, but it is a different state, so there are some different laws involved in that. But what have you seen in the Potomac in terms of demand? We'll talk a little bit about that, kind of operations. Let's start with operations. How was there a big effect with COVID in terms of delinquent rents, things of that nature that you saw in Vancouver in particular?
So yeah, it's interesting. That market north of Portland, everybody anticipated that there was going to be a pretty significant negative effect with COVID, but fast forwarding more than a year later, we have seen there being relatively low delinquency. Collections have been pretty solid with just about everybody we've been talking to. Obviously, there's going to be one or two units that might have an issue here or there, but for the most part, it's been really strong. And there's also been a tremendous amount of investor interest in the Clark County area as well, just because of it being situated north of Portland, and with all the landlord restrictions and legislature that's been happening down there, that's caused a pretty significant exodus of investors.
So this is investors that maybe were targeting, Oregon, so to speak, and now looking across the river, or is it local investors within Vancouver looking to expand, their holdings, or a combination of both?
I think it's going to be a combination of both. Obviously, Oregon investors that are kind of fed up with everything that's going on in that state have been moving north of the border, as well as California and Seattle as well. So Vancouver's really getting hit by all sides.
Okay. And then in terms of, I know I've heard this from various management companies, it seemed as if some tenant relief in terms, from nonprofits in terms of getting some funds out, Clark County, Washington in particular, did a better job of getting that, the money in the hands of people that need. I mean, are you hearing that same sentiment that compared to what we have, in Portland and Oregon, it was kind of slow, which maybe has helped as why the delinquent numbers aren't as great?
Absolutely, especially during 2020, in the heart of COVID, when everything was locked down. Clark County, the city of Vancouver, and really all the nonprofits associated with that did a tremendous job in trying to get assistance to tenants and into the hands of the landlords.
Now, are you seeing, we saw the growth of Clark County moving kind of east, towards Washougal and Camas. Now it seems to be going up north. Mm-hmm. Are you seeing the same thing in the demand side in terms of more investment? Renters, is it now heading up, Salmon Creek, Ridgefield going up that direction?
Yeah, there's a lot of interest heading up there, not only with investors though. The funny thing is we're seeing a lot of tenants migrating into Clark County out of Portland as well. And so there's a tremendous demand of units for people to rent. I think a big part of that's attributed to the school systems in Clark County and Washington are fantastic, some of the best in the state, as well as there's some significant tax benefits to living in Washington and working there as well.
Now we know, Washington changed. They have an excise tax, which. Yeah. And was kind of a stair-step change. Did that have any effect that you saw in the last couple of years in terms of that coming in place, where there's an added cost now? Or is it just kind of the cost of doing business and, people are just kind of making decisions that's not really driving? It wasn't a big enough change to, make a big effect.
You know what? It really hasn't had that tremendous an impact on the sales side of things. I think especially the out-of-state investors, when they see all the benefits that Clark County and Washington has to offer, that really offsets, that excise tax impact. And I think because of the pretty substantial cap rate compression that we've seen and the value increase over the last, year or two, most sellers are willing to, kind of weather that as well.
Got it. I know you've seen the paper. Governor Inslee's passed kind of a stripped down kind of capital gains tax, which has not been in Washington. Maybe just kind of, what does that mean for, apartment owners?
The good news is that tax is not going to be affecting real estate, and there are also some small businesses as well that won't be affected. That's for a different kind of investment group.
So for people that are saying, oh, Washington's now passed the capital gains, real estate's excluded. It's going to be after, stock trades and, some business sales, as we joked around. It sounds like they're trying to go after, Amazon and Microsoft stock options on that thing. So again, it hasn't had an effect on Vancouver. Is the immigration, Clark County at one point was the fastest growing county in Washington. Does that continue to keep pace in terms of the demand of new, jobs and businesses coming in there?
Yeah, there's a ton of in-migration now, more so than really ever before, and there are new businesses that are kind of following that suit to Clark County. There's also some major tax benefits for businesses kind of moving in to that area as well. To that point, there's also a lot of people say that there's a lot of new construction happening there, but if you look at kind of what's in the pipeline right now, they're nowhere near trying to catch up with the demand. So in the interim, I think for let's say vacancy rates, not to pivot too much off that subject, but for new construction, that's going to still remain relatively low here for the foreseeable future.
I know we talked a little bit about cap rate compression, or the lack of cap rates, adjusting, quote, for maybe delinquent rents or COVID. Maybe shine a little light on where this demand's coming from, where this capital is coming from, looking to invest in Clark County and Southwest Washington.
Yeah, I think it's there's a lot of capital coming out of Seattle, coming out of California that are trying to place with opportunities in Clark County. There's a lot of 1031 money in the market right now, so people that are constrained by those timelines needing to identify and execute on uplegs.
And so for investors looking or listening to this, I've had calls over the years. Well, geez, I want to look in the Portland area, but I don't want to cross the river. And try to explain to them that they're really interconnected. If you're looking at Clark County and Portland, yes, it's part of Washington, but it's really part of Oregon. There are some differences in terms of management and all that, but as you just mentioned, you're not seeing a decrease in demand or investor appetite for getting into that market.
Yeah, if anything, there is an increase in demand because you get all of the benefits of being a bedroom community to Portland, having all of the job opportunities and amenities that Portland has to offer, and yet you're kind of insulated from all of their anti-landlord legislation that you're seeing down there, and being able to operate a good investment up there.
Good. Well, thank you for taking the time. We'll shine a little light on Clark County and kind of what's been going on. We'll see you again on HFO-TV. Thank you again.
Our entire office specializes in multifamily real estate, making HFO the largest multifamily brokerage in the Pacific Northwest. Your success is our passion. Build your legacy with HFO. Call 503-241-5541 or visit our website at hfore.com for more information.